Hi everyone, Dr. Tochi here. I do not know what I was thinking. Let me see here. I thought I set the class for noon today, and for some reason it was at 11. Oh, God. Okay, let's get the TikTok folks on. So I am so sorry. I was sitting here just waiting for the time, and I was just sitting here waiting for the time, not realizing that I had set 11 a.m. Wonder why I said 11 a.m. Intention was actually to set 12. So I apologize for that. Mm. Well, welcome, warrior woman. Welcome to the family. Hello, Princess Rookie Green. I don't know what happened. I thought I set it for 12, and I'm just looking at it now and it's saying it was set for 11 a.m. So, well, I hope y'all forgive me. I'm a senior citizen. I'm a senior citizen. So when you're a senior citizen, stuff like that happens. Okay. So, okay. Okay. So today, hello, Sabelo Chonko. Hello, Helen Sumahoro. And thank you so much for, you're quite welcome. Thank you so much for being patient with me. I really don't know what happened with the time. Well, next weekend, I believe next Sunday is our daylight saving time. So um, I think that we're going to spring forward. So we're going to gain an hour next weekend. So hi, Joy Kingsley. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Boss Lady. Hi, Nefertari. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Lost in Space. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tochi, aka Papa Dr. Tochi, Mama of the men's and women's. I welcome you to today's class. Okay, and we're going to be talking about fire element rituals. Fire element rituals. So I encourage you to get your pen and your notebook, your drink and your snack, because this is going to go pretty quickly. Okay. We had fun yesterday with the group invocations and zakat. If you missed that, I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel or my Facebook page. You will see yesterday's event posted and you can watch it for yourself. If you're on TikTok, remember that tapping is clapping. So I would appreciate some love. Okay. If you are on Facebook and YouTube, Instagram, I would appreciate the share. That lets people know that class has started. Okay. That lets folks know that class has started. If you need to get a hold of me for your divinations, consultations, your dream interpretation, and spiritual practice coaching, I encourage you to go to my website at tochi.us, tochi.us. It's important you spell that correctly, or else you will not get to the website. Okay. We're going to have a women's event coming up soon. Actually, I don't know if I should make it a women's event or both men and women's event, because we're going to be talking about spiritual healing. We're going to be talking about herbalism, things of that nature. So I encourage you to keep an eye out in these spaces, because I will post notice about that. Okay. So let's jump into today's class, fire element rituals. Okay. Fire element rituals are basically for transformation and regeneration. That's just the general. I mean, the fire rituals do a whole bunch of things, but we use them for transformation. We use them for rejuvenation. We use them for sealing. Okay. We use them for sealing things together. We use them for reducing reduction. What in even in chemistry, if you're familiar with chemistry or even cuisine or alchemy, you'll be familiar with the term reduction. Reduction. Does anyone know what reduction means in spirituality? As I don't want to assume that folks don't know stuff. So, is there anyone, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, anyone knows what reduction in spirituality means? What does when we say that we are doing a reduction in a ritual, do you know what that means? Let me see my bright side, because I know there are some of you out here who just come and sit in class and you pretend like you don't know anything, but you actually know a lot. Okay, so reduction. Okay, TikTok. Anyone on TikTok who knows what a reduction means in alchemy, or reduction means in spirituality, or in occult work, in metaphysical work? Because I know folks know. I know people know. They'd be like, we want you to tell us. Thank you for the rose, face four. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember to like, let the algorithm let folks know that class has started. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you very much. And thank you again. Thank you for the heart. Who knows what it means, a reduction, if it to reduce? Okay. Folks, be quiet. Where are my metaphysical students? Where are my spiritual students? Are you all at? Because some of you are very, 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 very learned in these kinds of things. And I know there's some of you who are masters and some of you are mistresses of the arts. Okay. And some of you are just lurking behind the scenes. Oh, let's see what she's going to say. Okay, so while I wait for the answer to that question, let's move on. So we have folks who are fire element people. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you will see a free video that I posted there a while ago about the characteristics of fire element folks. Okay. I also posted there videos on how you can use the fire element in your life. How can you use the fire element to calm yourself down? How can you use it to do work? Anytime you are lighting a candle or fire of some sort during a ritual, you are invoking the fire element. And you are indirectly or directly invoking the help of fire element um, spirit guides. Now, I would like to share an interesting story. There's a fire element deity I work with. Okay. And there was a day I was like, I want to do something, and some of you might have this feeling sometimes where you're like, I just want to do something new. So you might go to the mall and buy some new clothes or buy shoes or buy purses. And speaking of purses, I just ended up with two new purses yesterday. Okay, but they were on sale. Okay, that's my excuse. They were on sale. So, anywho, on this particular day, I was like thinking, I want to do something for myself. I want to do some beauty regimen or health regimen. I want to do something for my skin, for myself. I just want to do something. Okay. So I have this bright idea that I should go get these IV treatments, and many places have this. They have a medical spa, and then you can go there and they can give you IVs of glutathione. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Glutathione, glutathione. You can get IVs of different kinds of, cocktails of stuff. You can get vitamin C. You can get vitamin B12. You can get different kinds of things. Okay. And so I was like, yeah, I want to get something, something for my system that will help my system. So I was going to my accountant, and near my accountant there's a medical spa, so I was like, oh, I'll just swerve by here after seeing my accountant. So I swerved by and I saw this lady. I said, hey, I looked you guys up on the website. I came by to see my accountant. I saw your sign. I just quickly looked you up on my phone, and you guys do all these beauty regimen things and whatnot, and you can do IVs and whatnot for folks, you know, to get these minerals and vitamins and amino acids and stuff. And she's like, yeah, 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 we can do that. Do you want to do that? We can do this and put together a cocktail for you and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, okay. How much is it? And I think she said $120, $150 or something like that. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So she goes into the room and puts together the cocktail thing and the IV. So I think there's an IV bag. I can't remember if it's a saline bag, but it's this thing, and then she'll inject into it all these other things. And then she came out and she said, "Okay, come, sit comfortably here." So sat comfortably, and I said to her, "Oh, I have to let you know, I do have small veins. I tend to have small veins. Okay." So, you just have to take your time to find my veins. And she's like, okay, don't worry, I'm an LVN, okay, licensed vocational nurse, here in the US, and I'm going to explain this for those who do not know. Here in the United States, nursing has hierarchies, okay? So LVN or LPN is right below an RN, a registered nurse, okay? So the LVN, you can do that course in 2 or 3 semesters, take your NCLEX LVN and practice nursing, but you don't have as much authority as someone who has an RN. And an RN, you can do that in 4 to 5 semesters, okay? But nowadays in the United States, they want folks to get BSNs, and then they roll the RN into the BSN, and BSN being Bachelor of Science of Nursing. Okay, so they have these hierarchies, but an LVN can do a lot of things. Okay, and there are lots of LVNs that do a lot of things. So, anywho, so she's like, yeah, and I think she owned the, or she was part owner or something of the business. I can't remember the details. Anyway, she told me to relax, and she was going to, oh, don't worry, we'll just tie a tourniquet around your arm, and we're going to find what we need to find, a vein, and then we're going to insert the needle and go about it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for the next 30 minutes, this woman could not find a vein. And I have a specific place on my arm where I usually do, if I need to get a blood draw, I usually tell folks, if you're a phlebotomist or a nurse or a doctor, I show you where to save you the trouble. Because if not, you're going to spend an hour slapping me, smacking me, and doing all kinds of things to me for one of my veins to pop up, and it's not going to pop up. People try to get it off the back of my hands. Look at the back of my hands. You're not going to see nothing, okay? And sometimes they'll say to me, okay, clench, make a fist, and then they'll start slapping and beating me just to get a vein. So usually I have a specific spot that's the easiest of my body to get that vein. Otherwise, you're going to be poking from here to Kingdom Come and you're not going to get nothing. Okay. So, anywho, I showed the lady and she was poking in and around. Before you knew it, I was bruising. Okay. Then she was like, no, let's try the forearm here. I said, are you sure? She said, yes, I can see through your skin, your veins. And she was slapping and smacking and everything and whatnot. Before you know it, I had huge bruises here on my arm, bruises on my right arm. And I'm sitting there in the chair. And she's going, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know what? I've never had this experience before. Look, and she started telling me her nursing professional history, where she had worked before and who she'd worked with, and stuff like this. And I think she was saying that out of embarrassment, okay? And I was embarrassed for her, and I was I didn't even know what to say. And I kept saying to her, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And she's like, maybe you're tense, maybe that's why your veins are not popping. I said to her, no, ma'am, I just have naturally small veins. That's what it is. And I don't really do needles. I would not even make a good user. Okay, like if people are out there using and shooting up the stuff, I couldn't even do it to myself because there's nowhere. Where am I going to find? you know. So, anywho, so she spends it. So at this point, I have like needle pricks all over my arms, and she's like, "Okay, let me go call my RN." And there was another lady there, I think that runs a business with her, and she tried calling the lady. The lady was not around, and she was like, how are we going to do this now? And I said to her, you know what? I can come back tomorrow or another day. And she's like, I'm sure we can get this. At this point, I'm so poked up, bruised. Okay. But guess what, folks? I had an idea why it was difficult for her to find that vein. Remember what I said a few minutes ago? I work with a powerful fire deity. Remember what I said earlier. So, so I said to her, don't worry, I'll come back. I'll come back. So I got into my car and I left. And I came home and I went to that deity and I said, I know I should have asked before I went, because part of your job is to protect me from being pierced by metal. And even if I'm pierced by metal, it will not have a huge effect on me. So I am so sorry that I did not discuss this with you first. See, I'm your daughter. I was just trying to be pretty like every other woman out there. I was trying to do a womanly thing. Okay, I thought it was a good idea. But tell you what, I'm going to go back to that place. And if they cannot find this vein, cannot get this thing going, I will know that this is a sign from you that I should not get this beauty treatment or beauty procedure done. And I left it at that. So 2 or 3 days later, I went back and I said, okay, I'm here. Can we try again? Is there RN here? And she said, yes. So she called the RN and explained to the RN what was going on. And beauty, Dr. Tochi, where have you been? I've been looking for you. How can you be looking for me? I'm in the same place. As always. And thank you so much for the gifts on TikTok. Remember to tap. Okay. Remember that we need some hearts here. That lets folks know that class is in session. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, please remember to like and share the video. It lets folks know that class has started. I know it's kind of easy just sitting down and listening to class and forgetting to let others. Okay, you used to follow me on YouTube. I'm still on YouTube. And right now we're live on YouTube as well. Okay. All right. So, anywho, so I got there. She explained everything to the RN. And then the RN is like, yeah, you don't have experience. You know, I can. And she started saying, yeah, I can get any vein and any condition. And I have experience. Let me tell you, I have some people, their veins are here. And I did this. And I get it in 30 seconds flat. And so she's praising herself about everything. And I'm sitting there and she's like, yeah, I need you to relax. Don't clench. Don't do anything. I'm like, ma'am, I'm not clenching. I'm not anything. I just trying to get this thing going on. And so the LVN kind of stood off to the side because this woman was now taking over the thing and talking about how great she was and how she could do these things and how she could find a vein. All she had to do was, and she had the tactic and the technique for finding the vein. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, this woman spent 30 minutes trying to find a vein. She started sweating. I was sweating. Everybody was sweating in an air conditioned room. This woman beat me up so much with all the smacking and punching and whatnot. She went for my back of my hand, back of this hand, went for the forearm, in fact, there were bruises. Like, so she was even trying to find my vein through the previous bruises. And she was like, I don't give up. I'm going to find it. I'm like, ma'am, I've had enough. Because in the back of my mind, I remember what I had said to this lady. I said, if I'm supposed to get this. If it is good for me, let them quickly find my vein. But if it is not good for me, don't let them find my vein. And that is precisely what happened. So I myself had to recognize what was going on spiritually with that. I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to be getting that self induced treatment. So I just gave her money. I said, hey, I'm so sorry it didn't work out, and left. And they said, oh, well, I think you should give us a chance. Come back on another day, and we're going to have this other person here who will ensure we find a vein. I said, sure, 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 sure. But I'm sure they knew, and I knew that they knew, and they knew that I knew that I wasn't coming back. Moral of the story, and I want you to listen very carefully to this, okay? Moral of the story. Not everybody should be laying hands on you. Not everybody should be treating you. Not everybody should be putting things in you. Not everybody is authorized to do these things. Some of you might remember a video I put out a couple of weeks ago when I talked about some situation going on with my bosom. And if you didn't see that video, I encourage you to search the platform where you're watching me right now. You will see that video. And I think I entitled it True Story, True Personal Story. The first time I had a dream when I was told, oh, we need to do a biopsy, I had a dream prior to them telling me we need a biopsy. And in that dream, I was shown how useless and futile the endeavor was going to be. And now I have experience. So once I saw that dream, and I went and the radiologist was castigating me and you could have breast cancer, yeah, breast cancer. I chose to believe my dream, which is if I had let her touch me, it would be a waste of my time. In other words, she wasn't authorized to pierce my body with her stuff. And a year and a half later, I went for another test and I met another radiologist, a male, who approached this in a very academic and professional way. And I did not have any contrary dream about this radiologist. So I allowed him to do the biopsy. And when he did the biopsy, nothing was found, which supported the very first dream. So when you are working with fire element spirit guides, you need to be very, very mindful. In fact, if you're working with any spirit guides, you just need to be mindful. But there are certain ones that when it comes to fire especially, and we will see it with water as well, there are certain things that they're like, don't allow this into your system. And if you're under the protection, if you have been fortified uh, under a fire element spirit guide, you will find a lot of restrictions like that, taboos. Okay. There are some people who, spiritual practitioners especially, who work with fire element spirit guides, that before they go for surgery, they have to do a ritual so that the surgery can go well. If they don't do it, it's disaster. You're going to have malfunctioning metal apparatus. You're going to have situations where they're forgetting the forceps inside the person's body, or forgetting the scalpel, forgetting scissors, forgetting rods, forgetting all kinds of things, or they're looking, they set out the operating equipment, and some are missing, some are malfunctioning, and so on and so on and so forth. If you're working with fire element guides, you need to know this. Okay. There are some folks that have natural affinity with fire. Sometimes some have this affinity that is so strong that fire rituals will spontaneously start around them. They be sitting here minding their own business. Maybe they're very happy, or they're very sad, or very angry. A fire starts somewhere. The stove catches fire, the candle catches fire, things be burning. You need to appease the fire spirit guides. Fire rituals, remember I asked a question earlier about reduction. And if I Let me set it as a prize. If someone can answer that question about that the question I asked about what is reduction in alchemy, or what is reduction in occult work, or reduction in metaphysical work, I'll give you a prize. I'll give you, what should I give you? I'll give you a free dream interpretation if you can give me a correct answer. And you can email me the answer at contact@tochi.us or send it to my DM. Because I want folks to research stuff. Don't sit and accept everything that I say. Don't sit and accept everything that anyone says. Learn how to do your research. Okay. There are certain rituals we do with fire where for instance, herbalists do a lot of fire rituals. Okay, in order to have finished work to present to their clients. Fire rituals are also done to provide impetus to get rituals started powerfully and greatly, and also to send them off. So that's why you may see some rituals. There's a lot of burning going on. The use of gunpowder being used. Um, Even, you know, there are some that they will actually load in the device itself and then send it its way. And that is the ritual, because it needs to go powerfully, it needs to go strongly, and it needs to go immediately. And it needs to execute immediately. When the Hindus immolate their deceased ones, especially when they do that at the Ganges River, that's a fire ritual. Because when you start looking at Hindu mythology and you start looking at deities like Kali, Krishna, and others, there's a talk about the regeneration that comes after dissolution. And without dissolution, there cannot be regeneration and rebirth. We also see fire rituals involved when people talk about the phoenix rising from the ashes. And those of you who are familiar with the Kabbalah, okay, are or should be familiar with rituals along those lines. What it signifies when you have the phoenix, that bird, the phoenix rising from the ashes. There are fire rituals that are done as to eradicate abominations in lineages and communities, or even in families. Let's say there has been some abomination that has been committed in the community or in the lineage or in the family. Such things are handled with fire rituals. Certain things are put together and they have to be burnt. They're burned so that they exist no more. Okay. When you light your candles for your rituals and your spells, you are performing a fire ritual. When you get your candle and you're carving things and dressing the candle, doing all those things, that's a fire ritual or a fire spell. And the success of that fire ritual or fire spell depends on what energy is attached to what you're doing. And this is very important because folks will go to the dollar store and buy all kinds of things for their candle spell. And after all that, nothing works. Who's involved? What's involved? It's a lot more than just lighting a candle. People who are of the fire element, and this is an interesting thing, people of the fire element can light a candle and speak something into existence as they light that candle. And another person who's not of the fire element can go and be lighting their candles, and they can be saying everything and anything that they want to say, and nothing will happen. Okay. Leather Lover Creator, I put safe energy into, yeah, you're right. When you see those candles being lit in the Catholic Church, being lit in these churches, candles being lit at shrines, those are fire rituals. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate you. Those are fire rituals. And sometimes we need to pay attention to what is being said when those candles are being lit in those Orthodox churches. I'm not talking about the non denominational churches or the Pentecostal churches or the evangelical churches. Okay? I'm not talking about those. So, again, pay attention to what is being said by the person in charge who is lighting these candles. And sometimes see how you can adapt those invocations or petitions to your own benefit or for your own outcomes. There are some times in a fire element, fire ritual, like I mentioned before, when herbalists use fire in their rituals, they're not looking to destroy something, but they're trying to transform something into a usable form. So they will use fire. Fire rituals also involve um, offerings. There are some deities that will only accept offerings that have been put in the fire. So either cooked on the fire, roasted on the fire, or completely burnt in the fire. When you look at your Torah, your Bible, your Quran, and some other, I believe you would also find this in the Bhagavad Gita, you hear this term, burnt offering. A burnt offering is not roasting. A burnt offering is exactly what it is, burnt. And the deity to which is being offered, one, is a fire element deity, two, can only access that thing if it's completely burnt. So now that you know this little forbidden fruit, go back and read. Go back and read those passages again. For this sin, I will accept a burnt offering. For this plague, I will accept this burnt offering. If somebody does take this thing and the other thing and make a burnt offering. Burnt. When something is made into a burnt offering, ain't nobody else eating it. So we're dealing with a fire element deity. Because it's in the burning of that offering that the energy is transmuted and that deity can access it. Different spirit guides, different spirit entities have different ways of accessing energy. And that's why you have to offer it according to the way that they need it offered. And I've mentioned this in other classes. Remember when I was telling stories of folks they're told to make some creature offerings? I have to be coded on these platforms. They were asked to make some creature offerings, and they were out there offering flowers and incense. And they'll come back, Tochi, I don't know why my offering to my situation is worse. You did a divination. You were told to make an offering, and here's who you're going to make the offering to, and here's the kind of offering you're supposed to make. And you went and did what you wanted to do. Why do you expect to get the results? And this happens a lot. Some people come to me, we do the divination. I said it has to be a creature, and the type of creature is mentioned and how everything needs to go down. And then they go to another spiritual practitioner and say, "Oh well, um, I got a divination with Dr. Tochi, and a creature offering was prescribed." And the person says, "No, you don't need that. Here, I'll do something else for you that's better than that." Yes, you are doing for that person what you think is better, but was that what the deity asked for? Obedience is better than sacrifice. And a lot of us learn that the hard way. A lot of us learn that lesson the hard way. So we go spend money and resources doing the wrong thing, and we don't get the right results. And we still have to come back to square one. So when that deity says burnt offering, that's what they want. Because that's how they can access that energy. Every being has a way it accesses energy. There are some people who will eat rice and go into a diabetic shock, and some other people will eat rice and that rice is just like an appetizer to them, and some other people will eat rice and they'll be full. Not everybody processes a rice meal the same way. So the fact that you can eat rice and not have any sugar problems doesn't mean that some other person can eat the same rice and not have sugar problems. The way your body processes the rice is not the same way another person's body processes the rice. So, if on a human level this obtains, what makes you think it doesn't obtain on a spiritual, numb bodied level? So, if you have been told that you need to make an offering that includes fire, it is to your own benefit and for your own benefit that you do exactly as prescribed so that you will get the results that you are looking for. So, before we end today's class, what questions do you have about today's topic? Not any other topic, but today's topic. Have a blessed day too, Lana Godwin. And to all of you on TikTok who have been giving me hearts and gifts, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And those of you who have been liking and giving me thumbs up on Facebook and YouTube, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much. Hey, 1,000 likes on TikTok. What questions do you have about today's topic? Thank you for the follow. Any questions about today's topic? If you want to know if you're of the fire element, I suggest you go to your favorite spiritual practitioner and get a divination. Fire element folks are not common. I think for me, the majority of people that I have found have been water element and earth element. Okay. I've gotten a lot of errors, but the fire is not that common. And again, I encourage you to go watch my video on fire element people. There's like some strange stuff them folks can do that the rest of us can't do. There's stuff they can do under the sun that the rest of us can't do. And speaking of the sun, when you are charging your crystals or anything with sunlight, that's also a ritual in itself. That's also a fire ritual. That's also a fire ritual. Okay. So there's so many kinds of fire rituals that are out there. There was this guy I watched occasionally on YouTube many years ago, and he would go into American deserts and different kinds of deserts, and inside in the desert and start a fire, and then calling on fire demons according to him, the demons of fire and the demons of hail, and offer himself up to be possessed by them. And he had thousands and tens of thousands of followers. This was way before I started my YouTube channel. And he had tens of thousands of followers. And he would say, I can do this and command this and have the power to do this and that or whatnot. But he would be out there in some desert or out some abandoned place with a bonfire under the hot sun doing his rituals. Okay. Now, did those things work or not? I have no idea. I never consulted with him. I just watched his videos, found it interesting, and kept it moving. Okay. There was also this East African lady, very cute lady I used to follow years ago on Instagram. And not on Instagram, on YouTube, and I forget her name right now. And she was into crystals. Her whole thing was just like crystals, 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 crystals. Okay, and she worked a lot with sunlight. Okay, and one of the things I'd like you to research is how to use sunlight for fire rituals. So not just cleansing, but transforming and for neutralizing. for charging, for disinfecting. Did you know, and I think I mentioned it last weekend, you can hang your clothes outside, which I do any chance I get. I don't always use the dryer. I will hang my clothes outside to get disinfected by the sun. Get disinfected not only by the UV rays, but also by the heat, the fire of the sun. So it's a good idea to hang your underwear where the sun can hit it. Okay. Helps with freshness. Okay, we have a question here. What is the difference between fire demons and fire angels? I'll recommend you watch my video on angels and demons. But the quick answer to that is there's no difference. Because in one generation, what was considered an angel is considered by another generation as a demon. And what was considered an angel here is considered a demon. One example is the Archangel Michael. When Archangel Michael started out with the Chaldeans, it was considered a demon that did destructive work. But as time went on, other civilizations, other communities adopted this spirit guide and started using it to do good things and gave it a different name. And so when you look at the history of how Michael started out, this Archangel Michael started out, you'd be so fascinated. With the Chaldeans and in Mesopotamia, it wasn't an archangel, it was an archdemon. Because anytime they wanted to punish and to destroy, they would call upon that entity. And yes, he's a fire element deity. But now he became uh, Christianized. And first of all, he was pulled into Judaism and sanitized and then pulled into Christianity. But if you notice, a lot of his work is still to do with protection and fighting. And if you want to make an offering to Michael, Archangel Michael, you're not going there giving Michael a bunch of roses. That's not what he feeds on. So yeah, good question. So watch that video on angels and demons. It's on my YouTube channel, where I talk about what's involved, and mostly this concept of demons and angels um, came from the morality of the people who were using these beings. Because remember, spiritual beings, spiritual entities are neutral. What makes them good or bad is how we use them. They're neutral, actually. If I use Michael against you and it works, you will see Michael as evil, but I will see Michael as good. You see how that works? But if you use, uh, for instance, Ariel against me and it works, I will see Ariel as bad, but you will see Ariel as good. So we come to understand that these spiritual beings, spiritual entities are actually neutral. Okay. My grandmother used to put the mattress outside when it's sunny. Yeah, sunlight kills bed bugs. That's why if you have bed bugs, they'll tell you for the stuff you can't throw away, you wash them and spray them down, put them out under the sun. Sunlight will kill them. All right, so no more questions. Thank you very much for those of you who have followed me, sent me gifts and hearts and likes. Again, if you need to get a hold of me for your divinations, consultations, dream interpretations, please go to my website at tochi.us. I also offer spiritual practice coaching, and it is for those who have taken care of the basic needs of their life and they are now ready and able to start putting their spiritual life in order, start putting their spiritual house in order. And I will say this: spiritual practice coaching is not for you if you're still struggling to get the basic necessities of life. Get your affairs in order. Don't be of the mindset that, oh, if I start doing spiritual practice coaching and it's going to solve my rent problem, is going to solve this problem. No, no, no. There's a certain level of control you need to have over your basic needs. And then spirituality will start working for you. And if you need to do specific rituals to put things in place, so be it. But if you're still struggling to make a living or struggling to find security, struggling to put food in your belly, and I'm going to say this, I know it's not a popular thing to say, and I know that folks are out there looking for people to coach, but the truth needs to be said. If you are struggling, okay, um, it, the last thing on your mind should be trying to get any kind of coaching. I don't care if it's life coaching, spiritual practice coaching, financial coaching. You need to have stability in your life first. Somewhere to sleep, clothes on your back, food in your belly, and then you will have the presence of mind to learn and understand what you're being shown. It's hard to be a good student when you're hungry. And I know that what I'm saying is not popular, but it needs to be said. So if you're on any platform and you're saying, yeah, sign up for this coaching and be the best powerful person you can be, but you're struggling to pay your rent, you're struggling to find work, you're struggling to eat, that coaching is not for you. And so for my coaching program, I don't accept people who are struggling. If you're homeless, coaching is not the first thing you need to be looking at. If you're under a DV situation, you're experiencing DV at home, or you're experiencing SA at home, coaching is not your priority. I have to tell you the truth. It's not your priority. If you're trying to start a business, and I've learned this the hard way, you don't know what to sell, you don't know whom to sell to, you don't even have capital with which to start the business, coaching is not the first thing you do. It is not. Take it from me. It's not the first thing you do. You're trying to start something new. You're like, okay, I want to start cooking at home and eventually own my own restaurant. Your priority is not to get coaching on how to use AI, how to design a website, coaching on how to make sales to the community. That's not your priority. There are a lot of folks out here who sell you courses and coaching programs telling you, I will teach you how to make money, but they're making money from you being a coachee. They don't have a body of work, they're not practitioners. So, how they make money is having people to coach. They're not solving problems. So, if you're having problems and issues and stagnation and obstacles and drama, your first priority is not coaching. And if I find out you come to me for me to coach you, and I find out that you're having those kinds of drama going on with you, I will discourage you from being my coaching student. Okay. I know I just gave out a lot of free advice here, but we have to tell the truth. People say, oh, come to my class and I'll coach you on how to be the best seamstress. And you don't even have a sewing machine. Your priority is not to go for coaching. Your priority is to be an apprentice. And then start looking at ways at how you're going to buy that sewing machine. You need to take classes, not coaching. So when I offer spiritual practice coaching, is for people who have other areas of their life in order. And they're like, okay, now I'm ready and able to face the spiritual part of my life and have some system and structure about it so that my spiritual can now super boost, can turbocharge other things I'm doing in my life. Okay. We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirits, our ancestors, and our spirit guides for today's class and for today's forbidden fruit. Ashe, Ise, Kamagu, Bakoza Lasedi, Makwande, Ayababo, Iyanho. It is done, it is finished, it's complete. Ma'at, Amen. Thank you for coming to class. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or your night. And for those of you who are going through the Ramadan with me, Ramadan fast with me, remember we started yesterday. I think what I'm going to do is let me get my mind around. I think maybe I should have like a morning get together, maybe just hop on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Just hop on, and we can just say some invocations together and have some quiet time together, even if it's for 5-10 minutes, just to encourage ourselves to successfully go through the Ramadan fast. Okay. Love you all.